When you stop being available to everyone all the time, the very first thing that begins to shift is how people respect your boundaries. Boundaries are like invisible lines that protect your time, energy, and peace. But when you're constantly saying yes to every request and always making yourself accessible, those lines become blurred or even erased. People start to assume you'll always be there, no matter the circumstance, no matter the cost to you. And the truth is, when you allow that pattern to continue, you're teaching others how to treat you. Intelligent people recognize that their availability is not endless, and the moment they begin to step back, they set a standard that demands respect. Respecting boundaries doesn't mean shutting people out or being cold. It means letting others know that your time has value. When you say no or you choose not to respond immediately, you're not rejecting someone. You're protecting your own priorities. The more you uphold that boundary, the more others adjust to it. At first, they might resist, they might question why you're not as accessible as before, but over time, they learn to interact with you on healthier terms. They begin to think twice before making constant demands, and they learn to appreciate the moments when you are available instead of taking them for granted. One of the biggest challenges with boundaries is guilt. Many people feel bad for not being instantly available, as if saying no makes them selfish. But in reality, not setting limits is what drains you and eventually leads to resentment. When you stop being overly available, you free yourself from that guilt by replacing it with self-respect. You realize that boundaries are not about pushing people away, they are about teaching others how to have a balanced relationship with you. Intelligent people know that without boundaries, relationships become lopsided and unhealthy. Respect grows when you create space. Think about it. If someone can reach you at any time, ask anything of you, and receive a yes every single time, your presence begins to lose its weight. It feels ordinary because it is constant. But when you are selective with your availability, when you reserve your energy for what truly matters, people start to notice the difference. They listen more carefully, they value your input more deeply, and they recognize that your time isn't something to be wasted. This shift only happens when you stop overextending yourself and start drawing that line clearly. Another powerful effect is how it changes your own self-image. When you consistently enforce boundaries, you remind yourself that your time matters just as much as anyone else's. You stop apologizing for taking care of yourself and you start carrying yourself with quiet confidence. That self-respect radiates outward and people pick up on it. They begin to mirror the standard you set, not because you demand it, but because you live it. Boundaries communicate without words. They show people exactly how serious you are about protecting your peace. The truth is, people respect what you respect. If you respect your boundaries, they will too. If you neglect them, others will follow that same pattern. By no longer being endlessly available, you are making a statement about how much you value your own life. Intelligent people understand this shift. They know that respect isn't earned by giving more and more of yourself away. It's earned by knowing when to hold back, when to say no, and when to make your presence felt by choice, not by obligation. When you stop being available all the time, one of the biggest changes you notice is how much more control you gain over your time. Time is the most valuable resource you have, and yet it is also the easiest to give away without realizing it. Every time you answer a call immediately, say yes to a request without thinking, or sacrifice your schedule for someone else's convenience, you hand over a piece of your life that you can never get back. Intelligent people understand that availability without limits slowly drains away the hours, leaving them exhausted and unfulfilled. Taking control of time starts with being intentional about who and what you give it to. When you are always available, other people's priorities end up dictating your day. You might start out with a plan, but as soon as someone interrupts with a demand, you abandon your own schedule to cater to theirs. Over time, this creates frustration because your own goals keep getting pushed aside. But the moment you stop being constantly accessible, you regain ownership. You start setting your own agenda and honoring it instead of letting everyone else's needs override your own. That shift is powerful because it reminds you that your time belongs to you first, not to everyone who happens to want it. Another benefit of controlling your time is clarity. When you stop scattering your hours across endless requests, you begin to see what truly matters. You realize which commitments align with your values and which ones are just distractions. This clarity allows you to prioritize wisely. Instead of pouring energy into things that don't bring fulfillment, you invest it in tasks, people, and goals that move your life forward. Intelligent people recognize that productivity doesn't come from doing more, it comes from doing what matters most consistently. Gaining control over time also creates balance. Constant availability often leads to burnout because you're always on call for everyone else. By setting limits, you create room to rest, reflect, and recharge. That balance makes you stronger and more effective in the moments when you do choose to show up. People begin to notice that when you are present, you're fully present, energized, attentive, and focused because you haven't drained yourself by spreading too thin. Time boundaries don't just protect your schedule, they improve the quality of how you spend your energy. There's also a psychological shift that happens when you stop being overly available. You no longer feel pulled in 100 directions by everyone else's demands. Instead, you feel grounded and steady, knowing you're choosing where your time goes. That sense of control reduces stress and builds confidence. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. Intelligent people understand that saying no to constant availability isn't selfish, it's strategic. It allows them to create a life directed by purpose instead of pressure. The truth is, when you take back control of your time, you also take back control of your life. People may not like it at first because they are used to your constant yes, but over time they adjust. They realize that your time has value and they begin to approach you with more thoughtfulness and respect. And while their behavior changes, the bigger transformation happens within you. You no longer feel like time is slipping through your fingers because you have learned to hold it, protect it, and spend it where it matters most. When you stop being available to everyone all the time, relationships begin to shift into a healthier balance. Constant availability often creates a dynamic where one person gives far more than the other. You become the one always adjusting, always responding, always stretching yourself to meet their needs while your own remain overlooked. That imbalance can build quietly until it feels normal, but deep down, it creates frustration and even resentment. Intelligent people realize that when they step back, when they stop being endlessly accessible, it forces relationships to reset and become more equal. When you are less available, others begin to recognize that the relationship cannot survive on one-sided effort. They are pushed to contribute more, to meet you halfway instead of relying on you to carry the weight. This shift creates healthier interactions where time and energy are shared instead of drained. It teaches people that respect and care go both ways, and it shows you who is willing to invest in the relationship beyond what they can take from you. Another powerful change is that you start to see the true nature of certain connections. When you are always available, it is hard to tell who values you as a person and who values only the convenience you provide. But when you pull back, those who care only for what you can give them will likely fade away, while those who genuinely value you will stay and adjust. This clarity might be uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Intelligent people know that relationships built on mutual effort are worth keeping, while those built only on convenience are not. Balance also builds respect. When people notice that you are no longer at their constant call, they begin to see you differently. They recognize that your presence is not unlimited, and that makes it more meaningful. Instead of expecting you to always bend, they learn to appreciate the times you choose to show up. That respect strengthens the bond because it is no longer taken for granted. Most importantly, pulling back from constant availability allows you to engage in relationships from a place of choice, not obligation. You spend time with people because you want to, not because you feel pressured to. That change in energy makes the connection healthier and more authentic. Intelligent people understand that the strongest relationships are not the ones where you give endlessly, but the ones where both sides give and receive equally. When you stop being constantly available, one of the biggest shifts that happens is that others begin to value your presence more. Availability can sometimes create an illusion of permanence, where people assume you will always be there no matter what. When your time and energy are limitless in their eyes, they stop noticing the effort behind it. But when you step back and limit your access, it creates scarcity, and scarcity naturally increases value. People begin to realize that your presence is not guaranteed, and that realization makes them appreciate it much more when they do have it. Being less available doesn't mean you're neglecting people. It means you're reminding them that your presence is a choice, not an obligation. That simple shift in perspective changes how people interact with you. They become more intentional with your time, more considerate with their words, and more mindful of how they use the moments they get with you. Instead of wasting it, they treat it with care. Intelligent people recognize this shift and understand that by stepping back, they elevate the quality of their interactions. Another important factor is that when your presence is limited, it breaks patterns of taking you for granted. Many people only realize the importance of someone when they're no longer as accessible as before. When you stop showing up at every call, they begin to notice the gap and what it feels like without you. That absence creates reflection, and that reflection builds gratitude. Suddenly, your presence carries weight again, not because you demanded it, but because your boundaries naturally highlighted it. This also impacts the way your energy is perceived. When you're always around, people may not notice the effort it takes for you to be present. They may overlook the sacrifices you make or the energy you pour out. But when you reduce your availability, the effort becomes visible. People start to connect the dots. They realize that your time and attention are investments, not something free and endless. That awareness deepens their respect for what you bring into their lives. Valuing your presence more also has a ripple effect on the relationship itself. It often leads to better communication, stronger respect, and more meaningful connection. Instead of shallow exchanges or careless requests, people engage with you in ways that reflect the recognition of your value. They don't just expect you to be there, they appreciate when you are. That shift can transform relationships, not because you gave more, but because you gave wisely. Intelligent people know that true value often isn't felt in constant presence, but in intentional presence. When you stop being constantly available, you create the space for self-growth and clarity. Always being at the service of others can keep you so busy that you forget to check in with yourself. You become wrapped up in solving other people's problems, meeting their demands, or adjusting your schedule to fit theirs, and in the process, your own needs and goals fade into the background. By pulling back, you open up room to focus inward, to ask yourself what truly matters, and to give energy to your own growth instead of pouring it all outward. That space allows you to reconnect with your priorities. When your time isn't consumed by constant availability, you start to recognize what you've been neglecting, whether it's your health, your passions, your personal development, or even just the need for rest. This clarity helps you realign your actions with your values, and that alignment is what creates a deeper sense of fulfillment. Intelligent people know that growth requires focus, and focus only comes when there is room to breathe. Creating space also sharpens perspective. When you are always present for others, it is easy to lose sight of what you want for yourself. Their voices, their requests, their expectations can cloud your vision. But when you step back, that noise fades, and in the quiet, you begin to hear your own thoughts again. You can evaluate your direction without being influenced by the constant pull of others. Clarity comes from silence, and silence comes from creating distance from endless availability. Another part of growth is learning how to say no without guilt. By limiting how available you are, you begin practicing the discipline of protecting your energy. At first, it may feel uncomfortable to step back, but over time, it builds confidence. You realize that saying no is not rejection, it is redirection. It is choosing to give your time to the things that help you grow instead of the things that drain you. That shift changes how you view yourself and how others view you. They see someone with focus and strength, not someone who bends under pressure. Most importantly, when you create space for self-growth, you become more intentional in every part of your life. You stop moving out of habit and start moving with purpose. The relationships you maintain are healthier because they come from choice, not obligation. The goals you pursue are clearer because you are no longer distracted by constant demands. Intelligent people recognize that stepping back from availability is not about ignoring others. It is about building themselves so they can show up stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled when they do choose to be present. When you stop being available all the time, you begin to see clearly who truly cares about you and who was only there out of convenience. Constant accessibility can blur the lines in relationships because everyone benefits when you are always saying yes, always ready to listen, always ready to help. But the moment you step back and limit that availability, the reactions you see will reveal the truth. Some people will respect your space and still choose to be there, while others will fade away once you are no longer serving their immediate needs. That difference is where clarity is born. This clarity can be uncomfortable at first because it exposes relationships you may have thought were genuine. When you are less available, the people who only valued what they could get from you will stop putting in effort. They may grow distant, frustrated, or even critical of your new boundaries. On the other hand, the ones who truly care will remain consistent. They will adjust to the change, respect your limits, and continue to support you even without constant access. Intelligent people understand that this shift is not a loss, but a filter that protects their energy. Stepping back also highlights the depth of certain connections. You realize who checks in without needing anything in return, who values your presence regardless of how often you are available, and who appreciates you for who you are, not just what you provide. That awareness strengthens those bonds because they are based on respect and authenticity. Instead of draining you, these relationships begin to feel lighter, healthier, and more balanced. There is freedom in knowing who is truly in your corner. You stop wasting energy on those who disappear when your availability decreases, and you start investing more into the people who remain present no matter what. That shift not only protects your peace, but also builds a stronger circle of trust around you. Intelligent people value this circle because it brings clarity, stability, and support without the weight of one-sided effort. When availability ends, authenticity begins, and the ones who stay through that shift are the ones worth holding on to.